I stood in the kitchen, the smell of fresh pasta boiling in a pot on the stove mixing with the sharp, citrus scent of the lemons my mother had squeezed just an hour earlier. It was the perfect setting for a family dinner, yet an uneasy tension hung in the air, thick and oppressive. Every sound felt exaggerated, the bubbling of the water, the ticking of the wall clock, the distant hum of the television from the living room where my father sat, engrossed in the latest game show. I could hear my brother's laughter echoing through the hallway as he joked with my sister, but that warmth seemed to echo against my own inner turmoil. I felt out of place in my family's rhythm, like a discordant note in a song meant to be harmonious. With a deep breath, I poured the steaming pasta into a colander, steam rising and swirling around my face, cloaking me in a fog of indecision and anxiety. Tonight was supposed to be a celebration, a simple family dinner meant to bring us all together. Yet deep down, I could feel something brewing beneath our cheerful facade. My hands trembled slightly as I placed the pasta onto the serving dish, wondering how a night meant to showcase love could so easily turn into an arena of hurt feelings and unspoken grievances. "Victoria, come on, you're taking forever," my sister shouted from the dining room. Her voice cut through my thoughts, harsh and jagged, and I froze for a moment. Did she really have to sound so impatient? I brushed off my annoyance, reminding myself that she was the favored child, the one who always managed to garner my parents' attention with her effortless charm. I was the shadow, forever in the background, bubbling over with emotions that no one seemed to notice. I shot back, forcing cheerfulness into my voice. "I am coming, just a second." I tried to keep the edge out of my voice, but I could feel the tension start tightening in my chest. As I turned off the stove, my mother called out from the dining table, "Make sure to grab the garlic bread too. You know how your father loves it." "Why don't you grab it?" I muttered under my breath, even though I knew she couldn't hear me. My heart raced. I could not let this dinner go south, but the weight of the past few months loomed over me. I had been feeling increasingly neglected, pushed aside in favor of my siblings, while my once close-knit relationship with my parents grew strained. Since the unexpected killing of my grandfather, the tension had only escalated. As I ambled toward the dining room, balancing the pasta and bread, I felt a deep instinctual pull towards the reality that was my family. They were the riches of my past, hazy summer days spent laughing, the habitually chaotic game nights, and those two rare moments of genuine connection. But now, everything had shifted, leaving behind bitterness as my reality. "About time," my brother remarked with a smirk, leaning back in his chair. The glint of mischief in his eyes made the tightness in my stomach churn further. I set the pasta down, offering a frustrated smile that I hoped could pass for a semblance of peace. "You all just couldn't eat without me. We were about to send out a search party," my sister retorted, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Enough, you two," my mother interjected. "Let's just enjoy our dinner together, no fighting." The way she said it made me burn with resentment. Who was she trying to kid? It felt like she was trying to glue together shards of glass in an already shattered window, unable to see the cuts that had already been made. Dinner proceeded uneasily, punctuated only by small talk and forced laughter. The chatter among my brother and sister felt almost alien to me as they exchanged stories that barely involved me. My heart sank as they talked about their most recent plans. "Dad said I could borrow the car this weekend," my sister exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "Yeah, well, don't forget who the favorite is," my brother joked, throwing a wink in my direction. The reminder of my position in the family made my stomach twist. They did not even notice how they left me behind, lingering outside of the glowing inner circle that bound the two of them, the bonds of shared favoritism and attention weaving tightly around them while I was at the frayed edges. "Are you even gonna talk tonight or just keep sulking?" My sister's eyes darted over to me and I felt exposed under her scrutiny. Anger surged through me, blurring the edges of my thoughts. I clenched my fists, feeling the heat creeping up from my chest to my face. "I'm not sulking," I snapped, and the words came out sharper than I intended. The laughter died down and I could see my parents tense slightly at my outburst. "I'm just tired of sitting at the table with us." My brother leaned forward, a teasing grin on his face. "Come on, lighten up, it's just a family dinner, we should be having fun." He did not even make an effort to hide the mockery in his voice. I wanted to shoot back to tell him that it was exhausting pretending everything was fine. My heart raced as my mind spun with thoughts and frustrations, but instead I bit my tongue. "What I want is for us to act like a family." I blurted out before I could catch myself, my voice shaking slightly, echoing the sentiments that had been lying dormant for far too long. The air went still and I could hear my heart pounding in my ears. Okay, calm down," my mother said, her brow wrinkling with concern. "We're all here together and that's what matters, right?" "No," I spat, the word slipping out before I could shove it down. "What matters is how you treat us. You keep choosing them, you keep overlooking me like I'm not even here." The shock hanging in the air was palpable. My heart pounded and I felt a mix of fear and exhilaration coursing through me. I had finally said it. The truth lay stark and exposed on the table alongside the untouched garlic bread. I watched my mother's face pale, the response I dreaded creeping into her expression. "Victoria, that is not fair," she said softly, a hint of hurt flashing in her eyes. "We love you just as much." Do you? My voice cracked, and all the emotions I had tried to stifle came rushing to the surface like an overflowing cup. My brother shifted uncomfortably in his seat, suddenly quiet, while my sister lifted her chin defiantly. Don't start this again, my sister warned, her voice edged with irritation. You always want to make it about you. Her tone laced with the bitterness of years spent feeling superior, always the star of the family show. No, I want to make it about fairness. The words exploded from my mouth like a firework igniting in the dark. You both are so caught up in your own little world that you refuse to see that I'm being pushed aside. I'm not invisible. Then talk to us, my brother said, his voice taking on an incredulous tone as if it were that simple. We cannot help if you do not open up. Maybe I would if you'd notice. The air was charged now, a taut wire ready to snap. I could feel the table vibrating with the tension that had built up around our family, choking us, suffocating the space in which we should have felt safe. I leaned back in my chair, trying to steady my breathing, but heat radiated off me in waves. I could feel my heart pounding in my throat, each beat a reminder of the depth of feeling that had gone unheard for far too long. Tears welled up in my eyes and I blinked them away, furious with myself for getting so emotional, but I could no longer hold back the hurt that had brewed over the years. We all feel lost, but we're still family, my mother stated, but her words lacked the warmth I craved. I wanted her to make it all better, to see that it was more than just family dynamics, it was betrayal roiling inside of me. Your grandfather's passing has affected us all, and we need to work through it together. How do we do that when you still refuse to talk about the $100,000 inheritance? My voice wavered, the simmering anger spilling over. I know about it, and it is unfair. You just keep pretending everything is okay while all of us know it is not. Silence fell, so heavy I could almost touch it. The realization of what I said hung in the air, and I could see the color drain from my mother's face as disbelief filled the room. My brother and sister exchanged glances, the very hint of fear flickering in their eyes. You have no idea what you're talking about, my mother finally said, her voice low, but the confidence behind it wavered just a bit. That is not something for you to worry about. Yet you worry about them. I gestured towards my siblings, the anger transforming into a pulsing flame inside me. It's always about them, the emotional weight built within the table, the tension palpable. Suddenly, I felt the tightness in my chest swell as though I were ready to pop. Just then my father's deep voice boomed from the living room. What is going on in there? He sounded agitated, and that added fuel to the fire blazing in my heart. I could not contain the wild beats pounding in my ears as I glanced at my siblings. I have had enough, I declared, trembling with resolve. If no one else is going to stand up for what is right, then I will. I refuse to be a pawn in this family. And with that, I pushed my chair back hard, the scrape of wood against tile screaming through the silence as I stormed out of the dining room. My heart raced, fueled not just by anger but by a newfound sense of purpose. I could feel the looks on their faces burning into my back, astonishment mixed with judgment. Before I reached the front door, I turned back once more, determination coursing through my veins. You will all hear me. I am done playing this game. With a ferocity I did not know I possessed, I slammed the door behind me. It reverberated through the air, echoing like a thunderclap, leaving my family gaping in stunned silence, reeling from the words I had unleashed. As I stepped outside into the cool night air, I felt a rush of relief wash over me, but it soon intertwined with a chilling realization. I had opened Pandora's box without knowing what awaited me inside, and as I walked away from the house, my sanctuary becoming a battlefield, an unsettling thought nagged at the corners of my mind. What did I just set in motion? The air in the house felt electric as I walked into the living room, the tension practically wrapping around me like a chokehold. I could hear my sister's laughter rising from the kitchen, warm and light, mingling with the faint smell of garlic and herbs wafting through the hall. I paused at the threshold, checking my reflection in the hallway mirror. My blue eyes looked back at me, a little too wide, a little too uncertain. I could see the worry lines etched across my forehead, a sign of the storm brewing inside me. I swallowed hard, straightened my shoulders, and stepped inside. Hey, you made it, my mother said with a bright smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. She was stirring a bubbling pot on the stove, the steam rising like a fog around her. My heart sank at the sight of her, forced cheerfulness cloaked in the scent of home-cooked meals. It felt like a facade hiding everything that lay beneath the surface, including the tension between us that had been building for weeks like a storm cloud waiting to burst. Yeah, I had to finish some work. You know how it is, I replied, my voice tinged with reluctance as I moved further into the room. I noticed my father sitting at the dining table, flipping through documents. The sharp lines of his face seemed even more severe under the overhead light, as if the glow was casting shadows over a landscape of hard decisions and unspoken resentments. Work always comes first with you, doesn't it? My brother's voice rang out, heavy with sarcasm as he leaned against the kitchen counter. His arms were crossed and a smirk danced on his lips, the sort of gesture that made the air feel thick with unvoiced grievances. I had a sharp retort on the tip of my tongue, something about how he should know what it meant to work instead of living off our parents, but I held back, biting my lip instead. I could use more help with the family business, my father added, not looking up from the papers. The tension in his words wrapped around my throat, stifling me. It seemed to hang in the air, demanding a response, begging for a confrontation. but all I could feel was the tightness in my chest. Everyone had grown so accustomed to the way I seemed to float through life, to chase my ambitions while they held down the fort. I was the dreamer, the one who had chosen a different path. But was it my fault that their dreams seemed confined to this house, to the walls that felt more like a cage every day? Maybe if you actually listened to my ideas, I said, finally finding my voice, though I sensed the hesitation in my tone. I could really bring something new to the table. My sister emerged from the kitchen just then, carrying a tray piled high with golden brown breadsticks, probably the only thing that would diffuse the tension. "Victoria, focus on what matters. We have dinner together tonight. Everything else can wait," she chirped, her cheerful demeanor juxtaposed against the teachable moment I was grasping at. "Everything else can wait," my brother scoffed, pushing off from the counter, hands balled into fists. "You mean like the thousands of dollars we're losing every month because we have a non-existent marketing strategy? I think not. I guess ignorance is bliss for some," I shot back, the words tumbling out before I could think better of them. "Enough," my father said sharply, finally looking up from his papers, his eyes narrowing at me like a hawk assessing its prey. "You need to understand that this is not just your life we're talking about." I felt my heart race and my palms began to sweat. "I get that. But it's my life too, Dad. Just because I don't want to follow the same path you all have chosen doesn't mean I'm ungrateful." The room grew silent at that, the air thick with unresolved tension that hung over our heads like an impending thunderstorm. My sister's smile faltered, her excitement evaporating. "It's not about being ungrateful," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper, eyes darting between me and our father. "We just want you to care about this, about us, care about us." The words pierced through me like a knife, igniting a fire of frustration. I felt betrayed, like I had been cut loose from family ties, only to realize that I was the one standing on the other side of a thick wall. "Maybe you should have thought about that before you cut me off from the inheritance, Dad," I said, my voice stronger now, filled with a stubborn resolve. I could see his posture stiffen, the tightness in his jaw revealing the anger simmering beneath his calm facade. "If you valued me as a part of this family, wouldn't you have included me in the discussions, given me a chance to contribute? You think inheritance means the same thing to all of us?" My father shot back, his tone icy. The tension crackled in the air like static electricity. "You've always chosen to step away, to create your own life. What did you expect, that you could just waltz in here and claim what you have no interest in?" I felt something snap inside me, a new realization washing over my confusion and hurt. "I never chose to step away from my family. I chose to step away from the shadow of all of you. There is a difference." "Are you sure?" my brother interjected cynically, eyes narrowing into slits. "All we ever hear is how successful you are, but what have you really built on your own? Not even a proper apartment, just a crowded studio where your dreams drown in the noise." "You don't know anything about my life," I retorted, heat rising in my cheeks. "You think I would move back here and live under this roof just to play along? I want to be successful on my terms, to be seen for my work, not because I carry this family name." I could feel the disapproval radiating off my mother, whose silence spoke volumes. She had never been one to confront, always the mediator. But tonight it felt like she had chosen sides, standing firm with the rest of my family. I needed her to understand that the hurt was real, that cutting me out of our family's financial decisions had sent a ripple of doubt through my very being. Then, stepping forward, I quoted clearly what had slipped under the radar at the last family meeting, the pivotal moment that had snapped my patience. "I mean, really? $70,000 split between the two of them for the investment. You chose them over me." My voice cracked with the weight of feeling ignored, betrayed by the family I thought could support each other. There was a silence that enveloped us, an uncomfortable pause where my words hung like a wounded animal, unable to escape their fate. At last my father's gaze shifted away from mine, and I could see the scenes of their shared past flicker in his thoughts, overlapping memories where I had felt like a ghost, lost in the background. "You make it sound easy," my father said slowly, a hint of disappointment cutting through his voice. "Like we were all just supposed to magically know how to support your dreams without you explaining them, but you're misunderstanding the situation. You are the one who's favored. Don't even try to twist this, Dad," I interrupted, my hands shaking slightly, feeling the gravity of my words. "You cut me out, you dismissed my aspirations, and I'm the one who has to pay the price for it." As the words left my lips, my heart raced, half in anger, half wishing I could put the fire out before it fully ignited. My sister, who had been silently watching everything unfold, finally broke in, her voice shaky and strained. "This is our family, not just your fight, Victoria. We just want to see you succeed." "But this isn't a reality show," I said, throwing my hands up in exasperation. "You want me to abide by the rules you set up, but what about the choices I want to make? What about my success?" A fleeting shadow crossed my mother's face, and for a moment I felt the air shift as if something unspoken had been unleashed. I peered into my father's eyes, searching for some glimmer of understanding, but found only an impenetrable wall. "Maybe you're right, Victoria," he finally sighed, "but it seems like you have no plan whatsoever. This isn't just about passion. You cannot build a future on dreams alone." "No, but you can build it with a little faith and trust from those you love, don't you think?" I replied, voice trembling slightly now with real emotion. You expect trust after all the choices you've made, my brother chimed in, an edge creeping into his voice. You aren't doing anything to earn it, you just walk in here expecting a handout. Is that what this is, a handout? I couldn't contain the incredulity in my tone as I searched my family's faces for any sign that they understood. You are dealing with my future here, this isn't charity. The heat in the room became palpable, simmering with face-to-face drama, escalating in a way that felt wrongfully charged. In a quick moment of clarity, I noticed the solidarity between my brother and my father, two roles intertwining, creating a thick barrier against my aspirations. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't just about inheritance, about money. This was war. Battle to claim my place within a family that had made decisions without me at the core. My resolve settled within me, solid like stone against a raging ocean, strong enough to understand. They may have thought they were right, that they were protecting me somehow. But I owed it to myself to fight back now, to prove I could build something on my own. I will show you, I said, my voice steady and clear beneath the chaos. I'll take what you've given me, what you think is your right to control, and I'll turn it around. As I spoke the words, the truth washed over me, grounding me. You will see that cutting me off was the biggest mistake you made. With resolve building within me, I took a deep breath, glancing past my family members who stood frozen, expressions tangled with disbelief. And when those numbers finally change, I continued, when I show you what I'm capable of, I hope it's not too late to realize that trust can be built again after it has been shattered. As the finality of my words set in, I turned on my heel and walked toward the door, feeling the weight of the room shift behind me. I was not simply leaving, I was stepping into the fight of my life, no more standing on the sidelines, no more accepting scraps from a family that thought they understood what was best for me. I would carve my own path, one that finally answered every flicker of doubt ignited in their hearts, and I would do it without them if I had to. Slamming the door behind me echoed through the stillness, leaving an unsettled silence in my wake. I knew the storm was just beginning. I had opened the floodgates to a battle I was ready to fight, fueled by the fierce urgency to reclaim what was rightfully mine. If they wanted a war, I would prepare for one. The revenge had already begun. I could hear the distinct clink of silverware striking porcelain as I made my way to the dining room. The aroma of roast chicken filled the air, mixing with the slight sweetness of baked apples. It was almost comforting until I remembered why I was standing there, my heart racing, fists clenching. As soon as I reached the threshold, the atmosphere hit me like a wave of ice water. My brother was already seated at the head of the table, leaning back in his chair as he recounted some arrogant story about his recent promotion. My sister sat across from him, her eyes glued to her phone, probably scrolling through some social media app instead of paying attention to the family dinner. My father served the food with a stern expression while my mother flitted around the table, her apron dusted with flour, trying to maintain some semblance of peace. It all felt so normal, so predictable, but I knew that beneath that polished exterior, tensions were simmering. I cannot believe I actually got the corner office. Can you believe it? My brother's laughter rang hollow, but my father's chuckle fueled his pride. I felt bile rise in my throat. It was so typical of them, dismissing everything I worked for while putting my brother on a pedestal far above me. Why was he favored? It hurt, the sharp sting of paling recognition of the financial disparity, especially after I had just learned about our family's troubling financial pressures. If only they knew that our inheritance wasn't as secure as they pretended, I thought bitterly. Congratulations, dear, my mother chirped, her voice a little too sweet to be genuine. She wrapped her arms around my brother's shoulders, her smile brightly masking the chaos that had brewed beneath the surface of our family. You deserve it, you really do. I could not hold back the flood of emotions crashing inside me any longer. What about me? I have been slaving away at that company for years, I exclaimed, my voice trembling with the effort to control it. I was the one who helped him prepare for his interview. How is this fair? The table fell silent. My brother's laughter died in his throat, and my parents looked at me like I had grown an extra head. The clock on the wall seemed to tick loudly in my ears as the air thickened with tension. My mother's eyes narrowed just slightly, as if she were processing what I had dared to interrupt. Victoria, dear, my mother said cautiously, like she was walking on eggshells, you know it is not about just hard work. It is about what you make of the opportunities given to you. Opportunities, is that what you think this is? I fumed, my hands shaking on the table's edge. He was handed that promotion on a silver platter while I was told repeatedly that I needed to prove myself. Maybe I was not good enough, or perhaps you all chose to ignore me. My father finally spoke, his voice deep and measured. You need to stop feeling sorry for yourself, Victoria. No one is choosing to overlook you. He sighed, rubbing the bridge of his nose as though to ward off my emotions. You should be happy for your brother. He has worked hard too. Hard work, I laughed bitterly, struggling to contain the growing resentment. You mean the same kind of hard work that gets rewarded with gifts, a brand new car, a promotion, when I barely can pay my rent? Congratulations to all of you for the favoritism you have displayed. You are being irrational, my brother shot back, his voice rising defensively. This is not about you, Vicky, it is about my success. Stop making it about your petty grievances. Petty grievances? I felt my chest tighten, the heat of anger coursing through my body. Is that what you really think? This is about fairness. This is about being a family. The word family felt almost foreign, weighted with layers of bitterness and unspoken secrets. I could sense my sister shifting uncomfortably in her chair, even though she still glued to her phone, while my mother looked at me with a mixture of pity and frustration. I had crossed a line and I knew it. "You need to grow up," my brother continued, rolling his eyes. "This isn't high school. You need to stop competing with me. You have a job, don't you? Maybe my job wouldn't be so soul-crushing if you all did not treat me as the family disappointment." Then I froze in disbelief, realizing what had slipped from my lips. My heart thundered, and I wished I could rewind time. What had I done? My father's face went pale as he stared at me, his brows drawn tight in furious disbelief. My mother's mouth fell open slightly, clearly shocked. The tension was like a thick blanket suffocating the air around us. "Disappointment," my brother laughed, but there was an edge to it, sharp and mocking. "Wow, that's rich. The irony of you calling yourself a disappointment when you are the one sitting here throwing a fit. Did you think anyone would take your side? Give me a break." "There is nothing funny about this," I snapped back, fueled by sheer indignation. "You mock me, you belittle me, and for what? Just so you can rise higher. What makes you think it does not hurt?" My mother quickly intervened, her voice laced with urgency. "Victoria, please, enough." She tried to calm the rising storm, but my emotions were a tide that could not be held back. I felt betrayed, pushed to the side for so long, and for what? To build my brother's legacy while my efforts went unnoticed. "Why can't you just accept that he is better than you in this? It is how life works," my father stated bluntly, a touch of disdain in his tone. "Better, is that how this family defines worth?" I snapped back, trying to mask my emotions. "You measure success in dollars and promotions. What about dreams? What about feelings?" It turned into chaos. My brother shot back another retort, and my parents filled the silence with their equally damning opinions. I could feel my face redden and my heart pounded away at my chest. It was all simply too much. I was furious, betrayed, but also so painfully desperate for approval. Suddenly, my sister piped up, her voice barely audible but enough to break through the noise. "Maybe if you all stopped fighting for once, we could actually listen to each other." Her voice was muted, but for a moment it silenced the cacophony in the room. "Ah, the peacekeeper finally chooses to react," my brother mocked, rolling his eyes. "What is wrong with you? This is family business." "It is all wrong," I exclaimed, frustration bubbling over. "This is my life as much as it is yours. Why do you all think it is okay to invalidate my feelings?" I gestured wildly around the table, declaring myself against an insurmountable wall of judgment and rejection. My brother shrugged, losing interest, while my parents pushed tokens of wisdom at me, claiming that somehow managing my emotions was within my control. A silence fell in waves, heavy and thick. I could hear my own heartbeat, felt the heat of unexpected tears welling up in my eyes, threatening to spill over. "I can't do this," I whispered, not fully cognizant of the words spilling from my lips. "I can't live like this." I bolted from the table, the wooden chairs scraping against the floor in a chaotic symphony that echoed in my ears as I rushed down the hall. Shuffling to my room, the familiar scent of lavender filled the space, but it only served as a distraction, amplifying the storm within me. I slammed the door and the noise reverberated around me. Leaning against the door, I took deep breaths, trying to quell my racing heart. My mind buzzed with thoughts of rebellion and resentment, a growing determination rising within me. I felt cornered, but I couldn't live like this anymore. I had to take back some power. No more validations from them, no more mocking. Something needed to change. I snatched up my phone, contemplating the few words written in the Notes app. I had found something during my research about our family finances, an article exposing mismanagement of funds and irregularities buried within the inheritance. Had they really thought I wouldn't find out? Just then, the door to my room creaked open slightly, my mother peeking in, worry etched on her face. "Victoria," she began hesitantly, "can we talk?" "Not right now," I replied harshly, my voice barely above a whisper but laden with emotion. "Not when everything feels so fake." "Victoria," she reached for me, but I took a step back. "No, you wanted to keep all of this a secret, didn't you? Telling me what I wanted to hear while you dismissed everything I worked for. I don't want your pity, Mother." Her face crumpled, and for a moment I felt a pang of guilt, but it quickly dissipated. "I just wanted to help. Help by ignoring my pain, by pretending everything is fine. Spare me." I couldn't stand it anymore. The walls felt so narrow, closing in on me. I turned away and opened my computer, the familiar glow illuminating the darkness. Something had to change. I flicked through the pages of notes I had gathered, smudged ink of my silent protests. It would not end here. Then came the moment that would set everything in motion. The article caught my eye again. "Financial mismanagement in the Bennett estate." My heart pounded, and I was suddenly weightless with determination. This was the weapon I needed. When my mother finally stepped out, I glanced at the screen one last time. For too long, I had been on the outside looking in. Perhaps it was time to reveal the truths that lay buried beneath the surface. With a newfound fire igniting my spirit, I took a deep breath, prepared to seize the moment, preparing for the battle that lay ahead. And just like that, I felt a shift in the air, the beginning of the end of their mockery. I was prepared to uncover secrets that would shake not just my family, but the very foundation of what we thought we had. The door to my room slammed shut with a finality that echoed through the house, a commitment to my newfound resolve. The tension lingered, thick and palpable, dripping with anticipation for what was to come. The air was thick with tension as I stood in the living room, the harsh fluorescent lights casting an unflattering glare on everything in sight. The scent of burnt popcorn still lingered from the snack I attempted to make for everyone. It had been a long day, but we were all gathered together, and that seemed to amplify the familial chaos that had been building up. My brother was sprawled out on the couch, headphones in, barely acknowledging the rest of us like usual, while my sister and my parents were engaged in some heated discussion at the dining table. That old oak table had once been the heart of our family, but now it felt like a battlefield, a place where all our unresolved conflicts surfaced. "Did you even hear anything I just said?" My sister's voice cut through the air, sharp and accusatory. Her hands were gesturing wildly, frustration radiating from her as she glared across the table at our mother. I stood back against the wall, feeling like I was in a pressure cooker, ready to explode as I watched the scene unfold. "I just think you're being unreasonable," my mother replied, her tone steady, but I could see the tension in her jaw. "You can't expect me to just hand over $50,000 because you think you deserve it more than your brother. He hasn't done anything to earn it," my sister shot back, her face flushed with indignation. "You always choose him over me, just like you did with the inheritance. You think I would just spend that money on luxury items and waste it, but I would invest it. I have plans." As the words hung in the air, I felt a tight knot form in my stomach. My brother, who had been avoiding our family's drama and hiding behind his screen, finally pulled off his headphones, his eyes widening slightly at the mention of money. "What are you talking about? Inheritance? Plans? Mom, I never asked for any of this, and I definitely wouldn't spend it carelessly. You know I have things I want to do. It's not fair that you two make this about favoring one child over the other." "It's not about that. He's just trying to make a living here," our mother exclaimed, her voice rising slightly. "You both need to understand there are limits, and none of it would have been possible without your father and me working our butts off. Do you even realize how hard we've had to work to get where we are today?" I clenched my fists, feeling the tumult of emotion boil over. How could they all surround me in this outrage, yet no one was addressing the real issue? They were yelling about money, inheritance, and favoritism while completely ignoring my own dreams and life's work. Why did I have to be the one standing in the shadows watching this chaos unfold? I took a deep breath, ready to step in. "Maybe if you all took the time to listen to each other instead of just arguing, we wouldn't be in this mess," I said aloud, my voice shaking slightly. "You are all so caught up in what you think you deserve, you've forgotten how to communicate. It is driving me crazy." My sister turned to me, her eyes narrowing. "And what do you know? You just sit back and let us fight it out. You're never involved in anything." She spat, but there was a hint of uncertainty in her voice. Perhaps it was my resolute posture or the fact that I usually was quiet when these things erupted. "I know plenty. You don't know the weight of this household," I shot back, surprised by the surge of confidence that seemed to rise within me. "It is not just about money or being chosen. You have each other, and I am tired of seeing us tear each other apart like this." My father entered the room just in time to hear my outburst, eyeing my sister and then shifting toward me. "Calm down, all of you," he said, his voice low but authoritative. "We need to figure this out without raising our voices. The last thing we need is for this to escalate into a full-blown war." "A war? You're the one who has picked sides," my sister countered, throwing her hands up in the air, exasperation pouring off her. "You always say you want us to be a family, but you consistently favor him. This is your fault as much as it is ours." "Not favoring anybody," my father replied, crossing his arms. "That is not what is happening here. You both need to stop and think about where this anger is coming from. You want money for your ventures, yes, and I understand, but it is not endless. Endless, that is rich coming from someone who has a luxury car in the driveway." My sister exclaimed, her voice now sharp and cutting. "You can't ignore the hypocrisy here. We are not asking for the world, just a little understanding and acknowledgement of what we are trying to do." My heart raced as I processed the argument. My sister was right. Our father, who always told us to work hard, had spent lavishly on himself and always downplayed our aspirations, forcing us now to get lost in the financial crossfire. How was it that a simple $50,000 could have us all snapping at each other's throats? I felt the familiar sting of betrayal rise up in my chest again, licking at the old wounds of feeling unseen and unheard. "Maybe we should all just be honest then," I responded, my pulse quickening. "What if the real issue here is that money isn't the only thing causing the rift? Maybe it is everything else, actually addressing the feelings that lie underneath this facade." "Address feelings." What a nice touchy-feely sentiment, my brother retorted with a roll of his eyes, clearly uninterested in emotional subtleties. "What we need to do is look at who really deserves a cut of what's left from our parents. It is survival of the fittest." "Fine, think like that," my mother snapped, frustration radiating from her. "But if you continue viewing money as a means of measuring worth within this family, you are going to be disappointed. Love is not transactional." "Then maybe you should show me that love instead of dismissing me," my sister yelled, her voice cracking slightly. "Why does it always seem like I'm the one left with nothing while he gets everything? Why do I feel cut off from the family that is supposed to support me?" In that moment, the room fell into an uneasy silence, the air buzzing with unresolved emotions and lingering hurt. I felt the weight of it all closing in on me, but I knew there was no turning back. It was time for everything to come out into the open, to expose the fractures that lay beneath the surface, much like the cracked tiles I'd seen on the floor, shattered yet barely held together. Maybe I am the one who feels unloved, I blurted out, my voice trembling. I've given everything for this family, and now I'm just a bystander in this petty war. Honestly, I am tired of feeling invisible. I applied for that scholarship to the art school, but no one bothered to ask me about my dreams. You all expect me to conform, to fit into the mold you've designed, but I'm done. The declaration hung in the air, and my parents exchanged a glance, uncertainty swirling between them. You were afraid to tell us, my mother asked, softening slightly. Of course I was. I couldn't face being mocked yet again, I replied, my hands shaking. I am just as worthy as you all claim to be, and I deserve not just your attention, but also your support for my dreams. The stunned silence continued, and I could feel the atmosphere shifting, the balance of power in our family tilting in an unfamiliar direction. My father looked conflicted, his brows furrowing as he spoke. We never meant to make you feel that way. We just thought you were happy here. Happy? Is that what you think? You equate happiness with being compliant and fitting into what you want, I answered, biting back tears. You all have always chosen favor over understanding, and I've felt lost in the chaos. Before anyone could respond, the door swung open with a loud bang, and my brother suddenly stood up, tossing his headphones carelessly aside. Forget it, he shouted, frustration spilling over. You know what? I don't need this. I don't want to listen to this anymore. He stormed out, the heavy door slamming behind him with a finality that echoed through the room. See, this is what I mean, my sister wailed, her expression shifting from anger to fear. No one cares enough about the family to stick around when things get tough. We are the ones risking everything while you all play favorites. Maybe we should just end this charade for good then, my father said, his voice barely above a whisper. If we cannot progress together like this, maybe we need to reconsider how we operate as a family. This is not what I wanted for us. A feeling of cold dread washed over me, and as the tension hung heavily, I sensed something shifting within me, like embers becoming flames. Addressing my feelings had made me vulnerable, yet it felt like some kind of power was awakening. I resolved that I would not shy away from confronting what lay ahead for the sake of family. I would no longer remain in the background, surrendering my voice to resentment. But before I could declare anything further, my sister leaned forward, her eyes glistening with a mix of fury and desperation. No, we are not going to end like this. I might have ideas and plans, but you all need to see who is really driving this family into the ground. It's a matter of time before we all have to choose sides. Her words hit hard, and I felt the electric anticipation buzzing in the air like a storm rolling in. I stood there, trapped in that unhealthy connection of tumultuous emotions, grappling with the intensity of the moment, when I knew that this wasn't just the climax of that heated argument. It was an inflection point, a turning tide that would lead to greater conflict, more resentment, and inevitably the haunting whispers of revenge still lingering beneath the surface, everything left unresolved, everything hanging precariously in balance. And I was left wondering, what would this family truly become in the aftermath of choices made in anger? Would we reunite, or would we keep peeling back the layers of the wounds we inflicted? I took a deep breath, feeling the familiar urge to fight back against both the injustice and the unfairness blanketing our family. All I knew was the battle had only just begun, and at that moment the stakes felt higher than ever. The air was thick with tension, and I could almost taste the bitterness on my tongue as I stood in the living room, the familiar walls feeling foreign. My mother was briskly gathering the last of the dishes, her movements sharp and precise, almost too deliberate, like she was trying to maintain control of a situation that was spiraling out of her grasp. Her eyes flickered to me, cold and calculating. Toria, you really should have thought twice before bringing all this up at dinner, she said, her voice dipped in that familiar condescension, making my chest tight. Thought twice, I echoed, incredulity spilling from my lips. Maybe if you hadn't cut me off with the inheritance, we wouldn't even be in this position. My heart raced, pounding against my ribcage like it wanted to escape. The scent of roast chicken still lingered in the air, mixed with the herbal notes of rosemary that had lined the dining table. The warmth of the fire crackled in the fireplace, but it did nothing to chase away the chill wrapping around us. Do you really think this is about money? My sister interjected, her voice sharp and defensive as if this were her last stand. She had always been the favored one, the apple of my mother's eye, and it stung to feel that familiar piercing glare aimed at me now. No, it's about being treated like an outsider in the family, I shot back, clenching my fists. You don't even know what it's like to be cut off, to be made to feel like you don't matter. I only wanted what was fair. I looked past her to my father, who was standing by the window, his back turned as he pretended to be absorbed in the view outside. The white curtains fluttered gently as if mocking my futile attempts to reach him. Fair, my mother laughed, the sound hollow. Fairness? Since when have you cared about fairness? This is about jealousy, Victoria. You are just jealous of your sister, and that's all this is. I went pale, the sting of her words slicing through me like a knife. Jealous? I barely recognized the tremor in my voice. Jealous of what? Being handed a payment of $50,000 for your favoritism? Jealous of being your success story while I'm treated like a failure? It's not jealousy, it's rage. Rage at being dismissed, rage that you refuse to see the damage you have done. Stop it, just stop. My sister yelled, her hands shaking with a mix of anger and frustration. You have no idea what I went through to get where I am. You think it was all just handed to me. When your mother constantly tells you how wonderful you are and how much she loves you while practically ignoring me, yes, I can see how you would think that. I shot back, my fists trembling at my sides. I began to pace, the plush carpet beneath my feet feeling like a strange anchor, grounding me as my emotions swirled around me like a storm. I am sick of your lies and of your deceit. You act like I don't matter, like I'm not part of this family just because I dared to speak up, but the truth is you both are bullies hiding behind wealth and privilege. My mother's jaw clenched tightly. You seem to forget, Victoria, that if it were not for us, you would be nothing. You owe everything to your family. You always have. No, mother, you owe me. You owe me the respect and acknowledgement that you took away from me the day you chose to favor her over me. The day you made decisions with no consideration for me. You cut me off, you chose them over me, and you did it with a smile on your face. The words spilled out, raw and unfiltered, and for a moment I saw my mother's facade crack. The decision was best for your future. You do not have what it takes to manage money. She shot back, her voice rising in a pitch that echoed off the walls. You cannot even take care of yourself. I drew a deep breath, grounding myself. What is money if my happiness is sacrificed? What is $50,000 compared to a lifetime of being unloved? The only thing that truly matters is love, and I do not feel it from any of you. You wrecked this family because you refuse to face your truths. This family is fine without you, my sister sneered, her eyes narrowing with anger, her hurtful words hitting me like ice daggers. Maybe it is time you find your own path. The finality of her statement sent a jolt through me. Did they really not care? My fists clenched tighter as I fought back tears. You are wrong, you are so wrong. I am going to find my path, and I will prove to you that I am more than just a shadow of your success. You think you can treat me like this forever. This is only the beginning of the fight. I turned away from them, my heart pounding so loudly I thought the walls might hear. The fireplace crackled with embers that floated up to the chimney, and the warmth felt like an illusion now, false comfort when there was nothing but destruction around me. Memories of us laughing at the kitchen table flooded my mind, but they were quickly overshadowed by the heart-wrenching echoes of betrayal hollowing me inside. Victoria, stop. My mother's voice rang out, desperate now. Just think about what you are doing. What I am doing. I paused, my breath caught in my throat, emotions spilling over. You all think it is easy for me, how easy it is to be forced into silence or the background, to play the role of the good daughter when I am not even acknowledged as one. That is the hardest role of all. I am done being silent. I turned, and the sight of them both rooted in their positions felt suffocating. My mother had a subtle sheen of tears shimmering in her eyes, but I was past the point of caring. I felt a surge of fire within me, igniting the determination that I would refuse to be the scapegoat of their family politics any longer. I deserve the same opportunities, the same love you both so freely gave to her. You cannot keep me in this prison built of your favoritism and neglect. Don't say that, we love you, my father finally chimed in, his voice breaking through the tension but lacking conviction. He turned then, and I saw the turmoil etched across his face. The pleading look felt contrived, as if he was trying to salvage something that was beyond repair. Love comes from understanding, from support, from choice. You demanded I accept your way or be cut off. I chose to keep my dignity, even if it meant harsh consequences, I exclaimed, my voice shaking. Imagine how your brother feels, caught in the crossfire of this drama, my mother said quietly, her voice now thick with regret. He deserves better than this, we all do. The mention of my brother created a wave of guilt that hit me like a tidal wave. He didn't deserve this either, but you didn't think to ask me for my side of the story before making me the villain, did you? You let this happen in silence, and now you want to play the blame game. We are family. Need to work together to fix this, my father insisted, but his words felt empty, an echo of futile reconciliation that wouldn't heal the wounds that had formed over years. Family, you all turned on me. Family isn't about who has the most money or who is most valuable in your eyes. You want to fix this. Start by recognizing your complicity. Victoria, my mother's voice was now frantic, sharp with urgency. Stop pretending like you care, I interrupted, my patience thin as ice. You turned me into an outsider with your decisions, and I will not stand for it. All at once, every emotion I had bottled up exploded, and I felt a surge of energy pushing me forward, demanding to be acknowledged, demanding to be freed from the emotional chains that had bound me for so long. My mother's mouth opened, probably to say something about why it was better to stay quiet, better to bury this pain under layers of masked smiles and polite conversations, but instead the door swung open behind me with a booming sound. We all turned sharply, and I stood frozen, my heart going cold at the sight of my grandmother at the threshold. Her eyes were wide, filled with an intensity that suggested she had heard everything. My breath caught in my throat. In that moment I realized I was not ready for this confrontation, especially not with her. What are you doing here? My mother asked, her voice barely above a whisper, laced with shock. I came to see what the row was all about, my grandmother replied, her piercing gaze scanning our faces, and I think I can tell just by looking that there is more to this than any of you want to admit. Tension thickened the air around us, a shocking revelation whispered in each breath. My thoughts raced, and though I was filled with a mixture of dread and uncertainty, I felt an electrifying sense of empowerment. Here was my lifeline, the discovery I had secretly hoped for, and I suddenly felt more alive than ever. I had no clue what my grandmother knew, but it was just the catalyst I needed. In that moment, I clenched my fists tighter, breathing through the chaos churning inside me. I was done playing the victim. It was time to take control of my narrative. "Tell them," I said, my heart thundered. "Tell them what you really think." And everything inside me trembled with excitement and fear, but I was ready. Finally, I was ready.